an environment where there's inclusion and there's prosperity for all. But I think our responsibility in eliminating waste in terms of value for money, in eliminating corruption, are going to be key to that. But we also fall in an interesting role as a lower middle income country, which then takes us away from a number of grants. At the same time, with a debt portfolio of 30 billion, of 73% or so debt to GDP, also takes you away from the possibility of some loans. So you are caught in this limbo, which really calls for an honest discussion as to how do you break through on your climb out of the J curve. And I think we need to put our minds to that. I think there's a big push in the World Bank for what the president called the cascading effect, which calls for us to create a business environment which would attract that type of capital. But I think there's a de-risking element that is required. There's a promotion element that is required to be able to truly actively encourage the private sector in the West or Asia to come in. I mean, the challenge of reducing your debt to GDP ratio, you can move the needle, but so far, at any point in time within the next 5 or 10 years. The question then becomes, how do we bridge this deficit? Deficit for the country, deficit for our corporates, and deficit for a low savings regime in Ghana. So what are we challenged to do as we commit to a non-corruptible environment, and what are you challenged to do to be able to attract this type of private capital to bridge the gap if we are to meet the future, as Mokhtar is saying. We also, as you know, typically in our kinds of places have capacity constraints. And that therefore allows the mistakes that the World Bank made in the 80s or 90s because we are not able to challenge the orthodoxies that you bring. Where there was the SAP, there was the ERP, and it was the gospel.